Hello, my name is Keith Thompson. I'm president of Asheville Civitan Club this year. I'd like to invite each and every one of you to join us for the upcoming television series, Spirit of Civitan TV. It's going to be on URTV, and we're going to be covering some of the important issues affecting our community. We're going to be meeting some of the civic leaders who are making a difference every day in the lives of our community, and making things better for our children and grandchildren, making this a better place in which to live. So we hope you will be able to join us and watch our series as it comes forward. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and whatever. The Asheville Civitan Club meeting of November 3rd, 2009 is called to order, and hold your ears.
Is this working? Whew. Good. I don't know how to deal with it anyway. Past experience didn't teach me a thing. It gives me a lot of pleasure today to be introducing our speaker, who was here before. You recall the last time he was here, and he got through his presentation that he had at that point, and he says, there's still so much more I could tell you about the museum, and I'd love to come back sometime. Well, Walter, where'd you go? This is the time. Okay, Walter Turner is back with us to continue on with the program about the North Carolina Transportation Museum. He is very familiar with Asheville and had lived in the area in North Carolina for quite a while. He's got a lot of roots that go all over western North Carolina, maybe a little more the western part than here, but always very familiar with western North Carolina. He has served as historian at the North Carolina Transportation Museum since the year 2000. He's the author of a new book to be published this month. Is that the book that's on the table?
No, this is my first book.
Oh, his first book. Okay. Another one is coming out then this month?
Yes.
Okay, another book is coming out this month. You can watch for those. His articles have appeared in Our State, the state magazine. If any of you don't get Our State, you probably want to contact them and do that. It's a fantastic magazine. It highlights parts of North Carolina. Every issue has some different parts of where we are and not downstate, and it's a fabulous little magazine. Walter is a fifth-generation North Carolinian, and he grew up in Winston-Salem area. I was asking about that, and he says the family dates back to, I think you were saying, the Civil War? Revolutionary War, even farther than that, dates back to the Revolutionary War. You can ask him some questions. He's got all kinds of things he's going to tell you about. Without any further ado, I'll just let Walter come up here. This is Walter Turner, and he's going to talk to us about the Transportation Museum, and he can talk to us about anything else he wants to. So make sure you've got some good questions for them. I'm sure he will answer them. Walter?
It's great to be with you today. It's always good to come to Asheville, and I enjoyed so much coming to your club earlier this year. And just sitting here at the head table, I have this wonderful view of the leaves, the colorful leaves out there. Oh my goodness, we're in business here. Okay. You know, I was all prepared for Plan B. And Plan B was going to be, I was going to talk about how the railroad has affected Asheville over the years. And maybe I might say a few words about that at the conclusion of this show. But I'd like to give you a little bit of an introduction to the North Carolina Transportation Museum, where I am the historian and where we've been open since the early 1970s. Now, how many of you have actually been to our museum? Could you raise your hand? Okay, good. A few of you have. This shows our location. And the reason, our very beginning was that Southern Railway was organized in the 1890s. And it was an effort to consolidate a lot of small railroads and building one strong railroad that would serve the southeastern portion of the country. And of course, the steam locomotive was the hero of the railroad for so many years. But steam locomotives needed a lot of repair and a lot of loving care. And so Southern initially was very strong between Washington and Atlanta and really all through its history. So they needed a place where steam locomotives could be repaired halfway between Washington and Atlanta. And that's why they ended up in Spencer. Now, Spencer was just a farmland when all this started. And Charlotte, of course, thought they were going to be the center of this facility, but it turned out to be right on the edge of Salisbury, and it opened in the 1890s with a roundhouse and a few other buildings. And when Southern Railway gave up that location, which I'll tell you about in a few minutes, they graciously gave the site to the state of North Carolina for a transportation museum. And today we have over 100,000 visitors each year that come from up and down the eastern seaboard. We're considered really one of the 5 or 10 major railroad museums in the country. And you'll get a little overview of that today. I'm going to test out my pointer here. Don't think it can quite reach this screen. But here's something that a major technological change that happened in the 1940s and the 1950s. And that was that we went from steam locomotives to diesel locomotives. The steam locomotive had been what pulled trains since the 1830s and had been very reliable. But a whole new technology came about, and the diesel locomotives were more powerful. They didn't require as much maintenance, and they could go farther without having major repairs. So they began to take over, and in fact, Southern Railway was the first railroad in the country to go all diesel. Now, our museum opened in the 1977, and when Southern Railway gave us 3 acres and a few buildings, and a couple of years later gave us several more acres. And that day, the band played, you guessed it, I've been working on the railroad. I thought y'all might sing that today, but you're not a singing club? Some of you, okay. Well, we better not risk it, I guess. But anyway, that got us off to a rousing start there. And our first exhibits opened in the early 1980s. And this gives you, in the upper left-hand corner, that's what our first exhibits looked like. And then the steam locomotive train first started in the 1986. And then the bottom photo shows our antique car collection, which opened in 1990. So you can come to our museum and learn a lot about railroad history, but you can also learn about automobile history. And then, as you'll see in a few minutes, many other parts of our transportation history. Now, this was the big breakthrough in our museum. We were just a small museum that very few people knew about until 1996. And that's when our renovated roundhouse opened. And today, that's the largest preserved roundhouse in the nation. Now, you have an interesting roundhouse right here in Asheville. And I visited that recently when I was here on another trip, presently utilized by Norfolk Southern Railway. But ours is actually 37 bays around, and it's devoted to telling the history of railroading in North Carolina and the history of this particular site when it was operated by Southern Railway. Now, this is the largest building on our site. This is the back shop, and it's 2 football fields long, 3 stories high, opened in 1905, and this is where the heavy repairs of steam locomotives took place. And recently, in recent years, we've stabilized the building, we've added custom-made windows and a new roof, and eventually that will be a new exhibit hall that will take us from being a railroad and automobile focused museum to being an all transportation museum